Welcome to my first vegetable garden. Today's video is all about composting. A lot of times you'll see videos make compost in, 90 days, 60 days, 30 days. I don't know what the rush is, to be honest with you. If you get into the habit of just practicing composting, like right now I'm going to show you how to do it, as you're cutting your grass, not treated with anything, you bag it. We're going to go collect some leaves from around the house that managed to stick around over the winter, and then I'm also going to show you how you can use paper bags and cardboard as your carbons. But before you even really start building your garden, I recommend that all new gardeners just start a compost area. I'll show you a couple pen designs and we'll talk about it. Bagged grass, yes, there's going to be weed seeds in there. It's okay, they're easy to weed out of your garden. Cut the grass, bag it, and then we're going to go take it over to a pen, dump it. But let me show you what you do with the leaves or the carbons. Look around your property and look for where the leaves kind of collected. They always collect in this corner. This is the perfect source for leaves. Early in spring when the trees are beginning to bring out green leaves, they've already shed their leaves. You can also look under your pine trees. You can rake up dried pine needles. That will count as your carbon. Some people say it's too acidic. They never really explain why. Yes, pine needles have more acidity, but when you're mixing it in with grass and other things, cardboard, letting it compost down, the pH is going to be just fine. So you could use all the needles you see here as your carbons. Cardboard and paper towels count as carbons, just like your leaves. Just shred them up into small pieces and you would use everything you see here in replacement of the leaves if you don't have any. So you're going to mix greens, the nitrogen. The greens really heat up nicely. Carbons help keep it balanced, keep it from smelling, help it sustain its ability to break down. We'll talk more about that, but we're just going to mix them together. We're not going to do anything exact because the key is just make a pile. I already have videos on composting, lots of them on building the different pens. I'll go over this real quick, but my goal is to really just have you build a compost pile. You could just get basic fencing like this, make a big circle. You want it to be about 4 feet in diameter, and you just drop in your leaves. This is where I put my leaves from last year. I can reuse these as the carbons. I've been setting them up, holding them. These will break down into perfect leaf mold. It's really rich with organic matter, has worm castings in it. It's good stuff, but I can also use it to supplement the leaves through the spring and summer. This is just a pile of everything. Leaves, debris from the garden, grass from a couple weeks ago. 4 posts spread out 4 feet apart, a little more sturdy, and you just put the fence around it. In this case, didn't even spend money on the posts, just made a big circle, filled it up with leaves. We're going to set this space up. This is just made out of pallets. You do want water to fall into your compost pile. Without water, the microbes aren't going to really thrive and do their thing. There's holes in the metal up here. I like putting down a layer of leaves, and it could be just a couple of inches. You don't have to be overly worried about the exact ratios. Worst case is it begins to smell a little bit. That means you have too much greens. You just fluff it up and you turn it. So I'm going to flatten this out, pretend it's the first level of leaves. Could be ripped up cardboard, and you just want a couple of inches down there, nice and fluffy. Just start with the bed of your browns, and I actually made a mistake. This roof here does not have holes in it. My compost station down the way does. I'm going to put bigger holes in here because this is all dry. This has been sitting here the entire winter. It's not breaking down at all because there's no moisture. So moisture is the key. You don't really need a roof on here. It can be in the sun, it can be in the shade. The microbes are going to do their thing as long as they have moisture, and then a combination of the carbons and greens helps speed this process up. You can just leave leaves, and in about a year, 18 months, they'll break down. Beautiful, beautiful leaf grow with worm castings in it. By mixing the grass and the browns and the grass and the browns, and you just keep doing that until you get a nice big pile, this will be really ready come the end of the summer. So you can use it in your fall garden. You can maybe use it come August. It's going to break down quickly as long as the moisture's there. So a level of browns, now a level of greens. A nice big bag of wet greens. It rained last night. You just want to make sure your lawn is not treated with any chemicals. And if you do like measurements, 4 to 6 inches of leaves, 2 to 4 inches of grass. It really isn't going to make that much of a difference, because the worst case, again, you put in too many greens, it heats up, breaks down, it smells a little bit. You just fluff it up, or you throw in some more leaves, or you throw in some more cardboard. But the whole key is just getting the process started. So I'll just kind of level this off, and then we'll put another layer of leaves on here. Picked up the leaves that I showed you earlier, have the layers started, you know, nice and fluffy to a degree. Probably more leaves than I need on the bottom, but I already had them. It's really about the resources you have. Just make the layers. Again, we worry too much about getting stuff done quickly. I can guarantee that if you never make a compost pile, you will never have compost. If you make compost piles, eventually you will have an endless supply of it, as long as you keep adding to them, because hopefully our lives go on, the gardens continue to get built, and this is all going to break down, and then that continuous supply of compost is available to you. Your garden's going to love it. It's good on your budget. It's a great way to really be an organic vegetable gardener. Leaves, loose, fluffy, I'm just going to throw them in there. Even though, and the reason I don't really like ratios is because these are all nice and fluffy, and it could be 4 to 6 inches. This is going to settle down really quickly. Once this heats up and the microbes start going, the pile drops. It's really going to shrink down to well below 1/4 of the pile as it composts down, and you can just keep adding to it or start a second pile. As you put on the browns, these are pretty dry. You'd want to soak it with a hose. The pile being wet is perfectly fine. You know, rain does it. Sometimes people worry that it's over soaked, it's not going to work. Don't over worry. Those things become barriers. Just think about it. If this was sitting out in nature and there was a thunderstorm, it rained for 3 days, the pile's going to be soaking wet. Nature knows what to do. So let me throw in the pile of leaves, and then I'm going to collect some more greens. This is what finished compost is going to look like. This is the combination of leaves and grass and yard debris, and it's really beautiful stuff. I mean, it looks good. Over here, where water does get to the pile, these are all leaves. This is leaf mold. I mean, look at this stuff. That is beautiful. As long as you have the moisture, your compost pile, no matter how you design it, browns, greens, browns, just piles of yard waste, it's going to break down. Moisture is the key to success. The pile is getting built up nicely. If you're going to use cardboard, you know, rip it up into pieces like this. Does not need to be perfect. If you wet the cardboard down, it's a lot easier to tear. And then you want to kind of crunch up the cardboard like this. You want lots of air pockets in there. The air helps the good bacteria, the good microbes, break down your organic matter. That's what you want. When it starts to heat up and smell bad, it's just because there's not a lot of oxygen in there. The other bacteria that we don't want begin to colonize, and it smells. And if it does smell bad, just fluff it up. The air will make a big difference. You can turn this pile if you want, you know, once every 10 days or so. That gets the oxygen in. That helps break it down. But again, I want to stress that you can't have compost if you don't start a pile. And once you start a pile, it's always going to eventually break down as long as you keep it moist. So I'm going to put down another layer of the grass, and then I'm going to throw the cardboard on top of that. It's real easy to get 2, 4, 6 inches of leaves because they're in abundance and they're really fluffy. Trying to get 2, 4 inches of cardboard is kind of tough because you need a lot of cardboard, and it's just not as fluffy as the leaves. So just make the layers a little bit differently. About that much cardboard, maybe twice as much across a space. Again, this pile is not quite 4 feet by 4 feet. The other pens I showed you are larger, but you want to be somewhere around 3.5 feet, 4 feet wide. That's perfect. That keeps the moisture in, lets the pile heat up, and it's going to do its thing. So on top of here, you wouldn't want to put too much grass, but you want to put enough on to cover all the cardboard really well. Again, then you soak it down, and then you continue rotating the layers. You know, either cardboard if you run out of leaves, then grass, and then maybe leaves and grass if you have leaves. You know, you get the idea. Does not need to be perfect. This is going to break down. Please subscribe and follow me. I'll show you how I take care of this pile since we started with it in this video, and to show you how to take care of it so it breaks down and we'll use it in the garden. The other thing is this doesn't have to break down to 100% compost. We can let it break down, you know, maybe 75% of the way, and then we can use this as a mulch in late June, July, right on top of the surface of the soil, around our tomatoes, around our transplanted plants, and it will continue to break down there, act as a mulch, keep moisture in the soil, but then it's going to start feeding the garden. So there's so many ways that you can use this. And finally, you just build the pile up until you run out of resources. Maybe you need more cardboard to come in, you've cut your grass. I have 2 acres, so I'm going to be able to take this pretty much up, you know, almost to the top. I'm going to be using the leaves here that stayed dried. Again, I have a roof over that. You want rain to get in here. It has to be moist. So I'll make the layers, build this up, and I'm going to have compost. I highly encourage you to try and get started. I understand you may not have a lot of room. Sometimes the resources are hard to come by, but it really saves you money, and this is what your garden loves. This is what's going to have them develop wonderful root systems. You're going to grow wonderful microbes in your soil, and your garden's going to be a lot healthier. Just because you buy a bag of organic fertilizer doesn't mean you're organic gardening. It just means you're using chicken manure basically in your garden. This is the stuff made from your property, your area, that makes all the difference for how well your garden soil is going to end up. Thanks for watching. Again, please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com, and please subscribe. I'll help teach you how to grow food and have some fun.